Hey, boo. Look, I'm sure that was a beautiful introduction, but you were muted the whole time. So there you are.
I'm just rambling. I'm talking. Everything. I'm sure everybody's probably like, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me introduce myself again. Welcome to Baddies Talk Back. Here we are celebrating our 5th Founders Day, our 5th anniversary here at For the Rest of Us. My name is Marissa Thomas. I am the co-founder and CEO of For the Rest of Us. And joining me today for this special Baddies Talk Back, who I am excited that she accepted my invitation to come on and be here with me today, is no other than the other co-founder here for the rest of us, Jasmine Sowers, who is also the CEO and president of the Missing Pink. Hello, Jasmine. How are you?
Hi, boo. I'm doing great. How are you? Happy Founders Day.
Yes, happy Founders Day to you too. I'm so glad that I was able to get that back out, girl. I'm just rambling on like.
Well, you look beautiful doing it for what it counts.
Thank you. You look good too. But yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here. It is definitely a momentous day here For the Rest of Us. And I needed you to be here. You started this with me as well. And so I'm glad that we're here to celebrate in this moment together. But before we get started and talk about, For the Rest of Us, what's been going on with you? How have you been?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. I'm doing all the things these days. A little bit of ministry, a little bit of advocacy. I definitely took a step backwards to kind of get life reorganized. And we're going to talk about like that advice, right? For anyone that's trying to step into it, definitely got to make sure you take care of yourself in the process. But I've been doing great things. I feel great.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, let's talk about For the Rest of Us. It was started 5 years ago today. I remember at midnight. It was midnight here on the East Coast. It was 9 p.m. on the West Coast where I was at originally. And you hit the on button, and there we were. For the Rest of Us had like burst onto the scene.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
And yeah, I think you looking back, it was such a big deal. I think I was thinking today just the name for the rest of us, right? So it was actually your advice. You're like my ex-husband. You were like, ask Lonnie. And I was like, that man ain't creative. He's not the one. And I just like, I can see it in my mind. I said, we need a name for this blog. And he looked at me like with no hesitation. He said, For the Rest of Us. And I text you and I was like, girl, I think we got one. Right? But I mean, like, it was such a big deal. Like, I don't think people really understand the trendsetters that we were during that time because the space is so saturated now, but we were really leading the way, leading the charge on a lot of efforts, especially when it came to collective community. There was other places.
Yeah. And especially when it came to women of color, Black and brown women. Nobody was doing that. When you and I were both diagnosed, and we were looking like we were grasping to find women like us on social media, or just finding a community that we felt like was inclusive and that was inviting to us. And it was nowhere, which was one of the reasons why we created For the Rest of Us. Like you said, it's saturated now, in a good way, because now I think people are starting to take notice of Black and brown women and the health disparities that we have. But, back in 2019, when we started, there was nothing at all.
There was nothing. And for me, For the Rest of Us kind of became an evolution of things that I was already doing. Like I had a blog, but I wanted to find other Black women. I remember reaching out to Sisters Network and all these places. Like it was called Warrior Wisdom, a place in my blog. I want to talk to other Black women. Couldn't find anybody, right? 26, diagnosed, like didn't really have community yet. Found that at YSC where we met. But it was in that room where we were starting to learn about disparities in clinical research, where I kind of had this moment like, oh, it's not just us. So like, we're like at the top of the least represented, but then it gets worse, right? And I remember even today, I was thinking about like those conversations where I was like, Marissa, are we going too big? Like, should we go back? Maybe we try to do everybody's too much. And you were like, nah, we're going to keep, we're going to build a space for everyone. And it is beautiful, and it continues to grow and flourish under your leadership.
Yeah. And so we like bursted on the scene. I think we had over 50 blogs from all different women of color all across the country, diagnosed with different stages of breast cancer, and just them, raw and authentic sharing their, experiences of what it was being diagnosed with breast cancer and how that's like impacted their life. And I don't think, I mean, even to this day, and you may think the same thing, I don't think that we thought how big it was going to be at the time.
Oh, it gave me chills. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. I think it's so interesting because in my new body of work, I'm very much so about collaboration. I'm very much so about partnerships. And we went to other organizations and said that we wanted to work with them before we did it on our own. And they were like, nah, this isn't the time. And then what happened when people learned about racism after George Floyd?
Right. Right.
Suddenly they were trying to catch up with where we already were, you know?
Right. Yeah. And even just, circling back to what you said, like you said, we had plenty of meetings with people and like, hey, we have this idea. This is what we want to do. You should work with us. And there was so many people who told us like, you should not do this. This is not the time.
Oh, yeah.
We don't understand why you're doing it. And we're just like, I'm glad. And I thank God that we did not listen to that advice, because would you have thought like, if we had listened to that, it's like, no, we won't just do this. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. Like, for the rest of us may not even be here today.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think part of the momentum that For the Rest of Us has taken, I don't think we've seen another movement like this since it started, to be quite honest. I think it was a timing of it. There was nothing else like it. And we want it to be seen and we want it to be heard. And I think that was that initial impetus, is that how lonely it felt to be a young Black woman navigating breast cancer, to see all these images of people celebrating, but they were white and they were older. And right. So it's like, what about us? I think I continue to push back, on hope and healing, because even today, there's still a lot of mortality. We are also thriving. We are surviving. And there are a lot of people doing amazing work to make that possible. And we have to make sure that we are putting an emphasis and a light on that as well.
Right. And, continuing to share their stories, continuing to share the work that they're doing. And like you said, it's one of the things that you always talk about, and you always even still say to this day, it's always collaboration over competition.
Mm-hmm.
And, once people can kind of get that in their mindset and realize like we're not competing against each other, like the end goal at the end of the day is trying to end breast cancer. And even if we, it takes us until the day that we die that we are not able to end breast cancer, at least we are all still working together. And like you said, at least we're thriving. And, Black and brown women are living longer and longer.
And that's like, that is the heart. Like, that is why in the new work, like More Life magazine, what is the goal? Like, if there's nothing else that we have in common, is that we want to see more people living. One of the things that I do now is in helping put partnerships together behind the scenes to produce shared resources and shared language. You know why? Because one language is so powerful. It does not make sense for so many organizations to have their hands in the same communities, speaking different languages, giving different resources, when we could all work together and say like, this is what we're going to say. This is how we're going to help people. I would rather stand on stage with a group of people and say we've helped 100,000 than to stand by myself and say I helped 10,000. You know what I mean? Right. So that's the climate that we're in, though. And once again, going up against the grain.
Right. So talk a little bit about the work that you're doing right now at the More Life magazine and Missing Pink.
Yes. So the mission at the Missing Pink is to improve the lives of community of color affected by breast cancer through community and collaboration. One of the things that happened a lot during my time with For the Rest of Us is I was constantly being pulled into a room with other people who just wanted to talk about ways they could do work better. And I'm like, if y'all could just talk to each other, like you would realize that there are some great ideas happening in this space. And so it started More Life magazine, which is this opportunity to bring some of those tools and resources from across the community to one place, and then to promote this one resource, especially in communities that have the greatest need and the least amount of resources often. And then also creating spaces where advocates and community leaders can share knowledge and exchange best practices. Tupac has this saying where he said, I might not be the one that changed the world, but I guarantee you I'll spark the mind, the one who does. And that's the power, like I said, innovation through collaboration. If we can just talk, like I just came from a conference with pan cancer, like different types of cancer, and the ideas they shared, I'm like, please bring that to the Black breast cancer, to the Black and brown one. We need that energy. So that is the work that I'm doing now. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I love it. Now I have a good question for you. Do you, because I know a lot of people have said this about us and For the Rest of Us, do you feel like that you are a change maker in this space?
Hands down. Oh, I'm not gonna deny that. Absolutely not. That was God ordained. It cannot be changed. We are trendsetters. And I think as you continue to look future forward for the rest of us, as I continue to build up this vision that I have, like never seen this before, but I know that we can work better together. Like we will change the game. We'll continue to change the game. Like we're rolling.
Right.
Yeah.
Just one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you think that we've experienced when we started for the rest of us, like the lessons, the good, the bad, the challenges?
I don't know. And we talked about this recently. I don't think people realize we didn't know each other when we did this. We were like married at first sight, basically.
Right. I was taking that in the shower. I was like, we were like boyfriend and girlfriend, or just somebody put us together in like an arranged marriage and was like, you have to work together. You have to do this.
Exactly. And so I think like that was a challenge for us, because if you don't have a relationship to build on, like it's hard to build. And so I don't know that people realize how much we built in a short amount of time without really, yes, very much so, without really having that foundation. I think coming out of it, it's given us space to actually build a relationship that we did not have before, which I think is beautiful, because anything can build on a good foundation. I also think we were a little naive when we started, which was kind of good, because then we can shoot for the stars. Right. But I think the other advocates that have gone behind the curtain, they'll tell you like it's sharks.
Yeah, it's rough out here. It's rough out here in these advocacy streets, that's for sure. And like you said, I don't think people realize that at all. They're just kind of like, oh, okay. Which I guess that leads me, well, before I ask you this question, I will agree with that. I think, the lesson and the challenges that we had of just like moving forward with an organization where we're trying to help so many people, right? But then at the same time, like we're having to build and work on our relationship too. And then like we're being pulled in so many different directions, because when for the rest of us burst on the scene, everybody was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And then the pandemic happened. And we were already 2 steps ahead because we were already just strictly online, right? And so we didn't have to pivot because we were already there. But then that means people were still constantly pulling at us and wanting to know, who are these Black women who are on the scene? Who are these women of color that they're bringing in, and that they're doing this advocacy work for them? And then George Floyd happened. And then it really just started snowballing at that point. And so then we had to continue to keep just working through that. And then also work through, our relationship and our working relationship, friendship, all the things together.
And I think the vision as well, because I think that was one of the cruxes that we were getting different visions, right? What does the community need? And I don't know, and I mentioned this other day during an event, and I don't know if you felt this way as well, there was a burden that I felt being the only, you know what I mean? It felt like if we don't do it, who will? And that was a lot of pressure. And it felt like a lot of responsibility. And I think that then kind of made us, not that we weren't doing great work. And I think like that is also the challenge, right? We were doing great work. We were kind of killing ourselves.
Right. At the same time.
I think for myself, I kind of became like everything to everyone and nothing to myself. So my personal life was falling apart. I thought about it the other day. I was going through a divorce and all these things very quietly and still showing up. Right. I think it might have been like I was separated for a year, and like at the divorce, I think my coworkers found out. So there were a lot of things that were happening off the stage that we were trying to navigate and kind of carry the pressure of leading the pack, because that's what we were doing.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of different things. It definitely was a burden. I think, even now I'm starting to work through that a lot now. And I think you and I have talked about this too, but even now just feeling like the burden of feeling like you have to be all the things or do all the things, and realizing now like, yeah, no, I don't have to do all the things. I don't have to be all the things. I need to be pouring into myself as much as I pour into everybody else. And not feel bad about that, or not feel like I'm being selfish doing it at the same time.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that was when I felt God called me out for the rest of us. It was one of the hardest things because I was still feeling that burden. But at the same time, it wasn't until I left that I realized, oh, my identity is attached to this. Like I feel like my worth and my value is this. My life has been built around this. And then God calling me out, it kind of gave me room to expand territory, right? So now I have time to lead Bible study and volunteer and also advocacy and support my family. But before God called me out and I had like things fall internally for me, my life really was just like, we have to do this. We have to do this. But I think now, like, God isn't asking us to be God. And that's to you even in this moment, right? Like, you are created to do very specific things. You don't have to do all the things. He's got that under control. So I think even for me in this space, it's I'm starting to make a good distinction between what I need my business to do, my organization, what things I'm passionate about personally that I want to be engaged in, and then when I want to turn it off. Because we must live outside. That's one assignment, right? And I tell people that all the time. Our purpose, it follows through all of our assignments. But cancer is not giving us the purpose. One business isn't giving us the purpose. You have a family, you have friends, you have assignments in all those areas. So it's important that we honor that in the work that we do and the way that we show up in the world.
Yes. So speaking of the breast cancer community being a little bit saturated right now, what would you say to people who are trying to get into or wanting to start their own nonprofit or their organization? Like, what is some advice you would give to them?
Well, the Bible says consider the cost. Consider the cost. One of the things I really do, and like I said, like I do a lot of work behind the scenes, which I think people are so used to seeing me out front. I do a lot of work behind the scenes now. When people come to me for ideas, if I know someone that's in that arena, I'm going to connect you to them first. Everybody doesn't have to have something. I'm just be real with you. Like, everybody's name doesn't have to be on something. Everybody doesn't need a logo. I think so many people just want to have their name on something. They don't even realize how hard it is. Right? I think like at least first approach someone and say, can we do this together? Is there an opportunity to do this together? Because you're going to make more impact that way. Right. So that is my first advice. And I think the second thing is to get out of your ego. Get out of your ego. This is not about us, not as individuals. This is not about a logo or a brand. There are people that are depending on you, literally, to do the thing that God has called you to do. And if you are too busy trying to get awards and being on the stage and just want to have your own, like, you're thinking about yourself, not the patient. I'm thinking about people. Like, I want people to live, and I recognize I have a role in that. So those are the two things. Get out of your ego, and like try to partner with people before you just produce, because it's hard. It's not as easy as people think.
Right. No, it's not. And I think, some of that I feel like I was saying to myself, and I think maybe I was telling somebody else too, is like, I don't know, maybe I was telling you this, like, I don't know if it's because we make it look easy or people think it's easy, that they just see it, but they don't realize like all the sleepless nights, all the nights that you're like up, just all the work, all the decisions that you have to make. Like, there's times when I'm just like, I don't want to make any decisions. Like, if I'm going out to eat with somebody, I'm like, you figure out where we're going, because I've made too many decisions today. But yeah, to your point, it's just working with somebody. I think it's fine to have your own, organization or nonprofit. But if you go into it with the mindset that you're going to be working with other people and that you want to work with other people, because you can make so much of a bigger impact versus just trying to do everything all by yourself at the end of the day.
And I think the other part of that is understanding like the best. So I still work full time in addition to the admin stuff that I do and volunteer ministry and all that other stuff, right? I did not consider other avenues. Like, I think I would have loved having a fiscal sponsor before starting a nonprofit, because like it's so much admin work. And even for the rest of us, like the admin work was such a burden. Like, I just want to do the programs. I just want to do the work. So I think people really do have to consider like, what's the best way to make this happen? Because if you're going to be doing the front house and the back house, baby, you're going to be working.
a lot of working, especially if you still have a full-time job like we both do.
Yes.
These bills are still billing out here.
And you know what I think it is? I think because we were producing so much work, people assume that we were doing it full time.
Right. Yeah. They like, oh, wait. Then they're always shocked. Like, wait a minute. You had a full-time job? Like, yes. Like, this is not going to pay me.
Praise God. Okay.
And I need medical insurance. So on top of all of that.
What?
Yes. Well, thank you, Jasmine, for talking about, for the rest of us and the things that you're doing right now. As always, and I've always told you this anyways, like, I would love to collaborate with you and the More Life magazine, which I know that we have a little bit, but definitely in the future for sure. And I'm glad to see that you are doing so well. so proud of you and the work that you're doing. And thank you so much. I'll save my crying for the end, but thank you so much for all that you have done here at For the Rest of Us. And so now we're going to transition into, we are going to talk to some of the ambassadors who we have brought onto the scene. But before we get into the lighthearted stuff, I definitely want to take a moment where we give a moment of silence to all the ladies that we have lost in our community and some of the ambassadors that we have lost from For the Rest of Us as well. Thank you. All righty, let's bring to the ambassadors on the stage. I know we got a lot backstage, so I'll bring you guys up. First up, we're gonna bring up Bhumika.
Hey, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Miranda and Jenny. Hey, Jenny.
Janai.
Hello.
Christina.
Hi.
And Sing Wrong. And then Nadia with the baddie baby.
What's up, baby?
Hey, how's everybody doing? He's looking like, who are all these people?
But he's smiling. I think he's flirting.
Yeah.
Hey, Grayson.
Thank you.
Hi, handsome.
Hi.
So we've got some OG baddies on here. We've got a couple of new baddies on here. I'd love to see you guys in your baddie gear as well. Miranda, we're going to start with you real quick because you were on the first ever Baddies Talk Back that we hosted, I believe, in March of 2020 because it was during the pandemic. Yeah, which is crazy. And we talked about, your blog. I don't know if you want to name it out loud because you're probably tired of us talking about it because we talk about it all the time.
When I die, this is going to be like the thing that's floating off in the internet universe. So,
So Miranda wrote one of our first blogs on the site called My Broken Vagina. Everybody loved it. Just because it was a raw, authentic take on what it's like being diagnosed with breast cancer, as a young woman and being thrown into medical menopause and what that feels like, which I know all of us can definitely relate to that. And so many other ladies in the community definitely related to it too. They're just like, even to this day, they're just like, oh my God, somebody's writing exactly about what it is that I'm going through. So it was great. It was definitely a really good blog.
it was definitely nothing that I planned on doing. Obviously, telling the world about my broken body parts, but I remember meeting Jasmine actually at the YSC summit in Austin, and I guess that was 2019. And just kind of chit-chatting, and then everybody exchanged information, came home, and she's like, "Hey, I'm starting this thing with a friend, and we're looking for blogs." And I'm like, "I don't have anything to write about," and I don't know what happened. I was sitting on my phone, and it just like poured through my fingers. I think one thing, and I want to be quick, I don't want to take up too much time, but I think one thing that everyone realizes when you get through active treatment, if you're in early stage breast cancer, this is like the big thing, like to me, at least in my life, the most detrimental thing, I think, out of surgeries and chemo and everything, because even though you're done, it's like you have this lifelong reminder that, you can't escape. And I think that's one of the things I know I struggle with. I don't know about everyone else, but it's like being this horrible, huge, traumatic event that just totally disrupts your life. And, but then you have like all these really great things that come out of it. And you meet all these amazing women and you make all these wonderful connections. And so it's this weird kind of love-hate relationship, right? Like none of us would be here had we not gone through any of this. But I felt guilty after I wrote that because I didn't even talk to my husband like at all about it. It was just like, oh, hey, by the way, I wrote this thing and it's all over the internet. So I think he's okay with it. And I would say, and because I haven't given an update, it's not broken. I would say we got some pretty good duct tape holding everything together, you know. So it's not completely broken. It's, you know, like the raggedy truck still getting down the road, right? But I think the bigger thing about that article or about the blog is that, you know, there's like intimacy, right? As women, we have a different type of intimacy than men have, I'm sorry. And, you know, whereas, you know, my husband's intimacy is more, you know, physical, more intercourse, mine is not. And so it's kind of something that we still struggle with even after, you know, I mean, I was diagnosed about 8 years ago now. And so that's probably the biggest thing I think even now. So I would recommend to anyone who ever gets to this point to talk to your oncologist, you know, get a sex therapist, get a regular therapist. Pelvic floor treatment is like phenomenal and no one knows about it. And I know like all the creams and lotions and pills. So if anyone, you know, wants that advice, I can give them that too. But it was very surprising reading it that there were so many women that, you know, were like so connected to it. And I had no idea. And I really, as shitty as I felt and as terrible as it was like, you know, it's very cliche, but like, wow, I'm not alone. Like, I'm not the only one. This isn't in my head. I'm not crazy. So
Yeah, it was one of those moments where, like you said, you feel like you're not alone. Even still now to this day, so many people can relate to it for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a poem, one of my favorite poems is called Our Deepest Fear by Marianne Williamson. And she has that line that says, as we let our light shine and give other people permission to do the same. And I feel like you're giving voice to that. And I feel like for the rest of us did that for so many women or have and continues to, they give women the space to be honest. And that's what we wanted. Because it was people, I mean, ringing the bells is cute, but anybody that's rung the bell knows that it gets hard. Like that, like ringing the bell is like the easiest part out of all of that happens. Yeah. And so like you did, not only did you get to a place where you found your voice, you actually gave voice to other women by being open and honest. And we're so thankful that you were willing to be a part of that first wave of like, what is this?
You're right.
I appreciate that. I guess I'll just have to give y'all an update when, you know, my kids actually kind of search the internet and find it and see what those conversations are going to be like, because I'm sure they're going to be really fun. So
yeah, they will be.
Yeah.
Well, just to give some people some background, we brought on ambassadors. We wanted to reach out to, you know, different women of color all across the country diagnosed with different stages of cancer. Some of them still, you know, living with metastatic disease. And we wanted them to help us, you know, elevate their voices, other women of color's voices, and the mission and vision that we had here at For the Rest of Us. Also, you know, for them to get advocacy training at some of the top advocacy training, like Jasmine and I participated in over at Living Beyond Breast Cancer. You know, we felt like a lot of those training programs needed to have more Black and brown faces in them. And so we knew that if we can bring ambassadors on, that not only could they help us elevate what we were doing here at For the Rest of Us, but then they can also infiltrate the scene at other places and be demanded to be seen and everything. So one of the questions that I have, and anybody could take it, you all can answer it if you want to, but how did being a Baddie ambassador empower you as an advocate?
I'll go. Well, first of all, thanks for having me and thanks for creating For the Rest of Us. I think I wrote and I've said multiple times, like, For the Rest of Us was like everything that I needed when I didn't know I needed it. Sorry. For me, it has opened up a lot of doors. It allowed me to be the first woman of color who was working full time for Living Beyond Breast Cancer. It allowed me to write multiple, I call them pieces, about breast cancer and the different ways and how it showed up in my life or how I wanted to share that with the world. It also helped me with where I am now, you know, as a director of admissions and recruiting here at Virginia State University, where I talk about For the Rest of Us all the time. I speak about breast cancer and about women of color and the great things that we all are doing that the other world doesn't quite know about, unless you're in it. And so I just felt like it reminded me that I had a voice.
Yeah.
It reminded me that I had a voice and that I need to say some stuff. I'm not going to cry. I'm sucking that back. It reminded me that I had a voice and I had plenty to say, and that just how Miranda's piece touched so many people. I remember reading a piece that Marissa wrote, or a piece that Jasmine wrote, like early on when I first found out about For the Breast of Us, and it touched me, even though I may not have related to everything in the piece. It touched me to let me know I'm not alone, that I wasn't the only one scouring the internet looking for Black and brown women. And even though I came a couple of years after you all, it was still the same thing, and I was in a predominantly quote unquote area that Black and brown people are out here making moves, both as a patient but also in the healthcare industry. And it was still, I was the only Black person, Black young person, or shoot, people of color. I was the only person of color in my chemotherapy room, and especially under the age of 40. I was the only, and it just was blowing my mind. And so I got into like a deep depression before I found you guys. And Marissa reached out to me on Instagram, and the rest was, here we are. Here we are. I'm going on 5 years in October, y'all. Like
Yeah.
for real. Y'all been with me. I think I was like 4 months out of ringing the final bell when I found you guys. So I thank God for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? How has being an ambassador changed you as an advocate? Bhumika?
Nadia, go ahead. Nadia, go
Well,
ahead.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Hi, 5 years, right? Like I can't believe it. It seems like it was just yesterday when I stumbled upon For the Breast of Us on social media. But I will say, like being an advocate made me understand the need, right? There's power in connection. So when I found For the Breast of Us, I was in a place of isolation where I felt like I'm in Dallas. Things aren't really talked about, right? Or there's a lot of pomp and circumstances, but those hardships that we go through in the community are really swept along the rug. This is a hustle mentality, in this area. So we didn't talk about the struggle of the African American community, the struggle of being a brown girl. We just wanted to talk about brown girls succeeding, right? But I found that I was isolated because I was young and I was diagnosed with this disease and I didn't have anyone to talk to. So finding For the Breast of Us created the connection, and it kind of ignited my power, and I understood the need. And before meeting other young women that were having the same experiences, it didn't become real to me, right? I was just in my own world, in my own box, doing the things, getting through the days. Literally, that was all I was doing, was getting through the days. And it made me want to have a better quality of life. Seeing others that were in different spaces, in different phases in their journey, made me want to have a quality of life, and made me want to empower others to have that quality of life, and inspire them to see like there's life after this diagnosis. And I was in that fog, so I can only imagine other young women or younger women that were also in the place of being in that fog. So I wanted to kind of pull somebody, pay it forward. I found For the Breast of Us. They pulled me out of that fog in the community. So let me go share the good news to others that there's life beyond this diagnosis. So there's power in this room, in this virtual room, right? And we have to go and spread that to other spaces.
Yeah, I love that. Bhumika?
So I think when I started with For the Breast of Us, no one looked like me, but nobody on internet, nobody on social media, and sadly we were at a time when we were in the lockdown, and so social media was all we really had to connect with anybody, and no one really looked like me. There was no Indian. There was no Indian person when I walked into those doors. There was no young mom, with a little girl being like, what do I do with myself right now? Who's going to take care of my child? There were all of these questions, and there were no answers. And then, uh, when I met Marissa and I met Jasmine, and we spoke and we connected. And I remember after that first meeting that we had, when, we were discussing about coming on as an ambassador, I was crying my eyes out after that. And I was like, oh my God, these guys actually get it. There's a mother sitting there who actually understands what it feels like having cancer and, juggling a little baby. And, there's this really, really sweet young girl who's gone through it, who's, possibly not going to go through things in life, but she's so much more positive. And there was just so much. There was so much. I was actually overwhelmed on that night, I remember. And I actually remember going back and saying, no, yes, I'm up. I don't know what this is going to entail, but I'm absolutely game for this. I've danced for you guys. I've created crazy reels for you guys. There was a reel I remember which I created where I was standing in the bathroom because that was the only white background that I had. And I was taking a reel of me talking. And I remember Shangrong and I had done a reel on triple negative breast cancer and the whole impact of it and how we connected, and we just connected with our stories and brought it out. You were like, hey, that makes a fabulous reel. It feels so good doing all of that. And it felt so good when people came up to us and said, I didn't know that there were these types of cancers too. And people came up to us and they were like, I didn't know moms get cancer too. And oh, I didn't know that I have to check myself every month. And there was that genuine uh, awareness, or there was a genuine understanding that yes, we should start looking at this, and we do have somebody. I kind of became probably that person who other Indians would come up and be like, how do I check my breast? Like, this is awkward. Like, go to the shower and let's do this. Let's do this together. I got over, you get over your non, your little things that you have for your body. Like, I can't show this and I can't show that and I can't do this and all of that. So I think it was fabulous. And what has been absolutely an amazing journey. I did probably move on a little earlier from the rest of us out here. And I remember that was a conversation I had with Marissa. And while I was driving back from work, when I just started work, and I probably didn't tell you then, Marissa, but a few months down the line, I actually stood up for myself because I was in a very, very toxic work environment. And it was the understanding of advocacy, and it was the understanding of how to raise your voice up there that actually taught me to stand up for myself, because my boss wanted to use my story to sell products. And I was like, not happening, woman, really not happening, and woman to woman, this is not going to happen, because that could happen to you one day too. Like, sorry to say, but it could. It just could. That's the reality that we live in. And it was all of that, learning how to use my voice for the betterment of everybody, and to take everybody forward in a more positive light is something that I really did take back from this. And it's been amazing. 5 years, oh my God, it's been God, bow down to you guys. Really amazing. Thank you.
Yes, no, we enjoyed having you. I think one of my favorite reels that you did, I can't remember which holiday it was that you have, but it's literally one of my favorite ones.
It's actually called Holi.
Yeah.
Holy day. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
called
Holi,
Holi.
that's one of my
Festival
favorite
of
ones.
Color.
Yeah.
Didn't Bhumika, didn't you mess up one of your cameras from all the color powder too?
I did. I did. Not only the camera, I messed up the floor. I'm actually sitting in the same room where I was filming. I messed up my stand, so I had to actually throw the stand out because the pink didn't go. Like, yeah.
It was beautiful though.
Thank you.
And I think one of the other things, Marissa, we were very sensitive of when we had the idea of Baddie Ambassadors is that we knew we wanted an inclusive space, but we recognized our role as Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only be allies, right? And we needed to make sure that we were bringing women in the room that represented the rest of the community to be part of those conversations, because we knew we couldn't have those conversations. So we always tried to be very sensitive to that. And the other thing that we've talked about recently, Marissa, is the idea that we are multipliers, right? And so we had to get to a place where we knew that we can encounter people. And if we enlighten them in a way that allows, that empowers them to move forward, then please move forward. And if you stay, then you stay. But I think it's always trying to keep that sensitivity in mind, that even you guys here, as you go out, you're always a multiplier. As you impact people, you would hope that somebody else would get lit because of the way you shine when you walk into a room,
Right. And we hold no grudges or anything for people that are, wanting that. It's just like, I've done my advocacy work here and now it's time for me to move on, or, I'm burnt out, because I've been there. I know, Jasmine, you've been there as well too. We talked about this a lot. So whenever somebody comes to me that, is an ambassador or was an ambassador, and it's just like, I need to take a step back and focus on myself, I'm always like, yes, that is your number one priority for me and for you, is for you to be able to take a step back and take care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, that is the only thing that you're going to have. Like, this advocacy world, and for the rest of us, will still be here. And you need to take care of yourself first and foremost. I know Christine and I had that conversation as well too.
Yeah, I actually wanted to speak a little bit to that, just because so I came to For the Rest of Us because, much like most people in this space, I was desperate to find a connection of people that looked like me. And for me, also being flat, like, I actually found For the Rest of Us because of Ginny and all of her posts about, being a flatty and like trying to learn to embrace that. And that my time with you guys is some of my most treasured time. Like, I was texting Marissa the other night and I was like, I just want to see you guys. I just want to be in the same room as you again. So it's very like there was nothing out there that fulfilled that need of being seen and being heard in a way. And I just didn't even know I needed it. I just kind of fell into my lap. And then in the past year and a half, I have been taking the advocacy work that I've learned. And so I'm a teacher, and I have been applying all of that, sort of like Bhumika, all of that I've learned into work around equity and anti-racism in the education system. And I really, really feel like being with For the Rest of Us has, I'm what I like to say, a recovering people pleaser. Like, being with For the Rest of Us has changed me in a really fundamental way, where I'm going to say what's uncomfortable. I'm going to say what needs to be said. I'm going to advocate for the kids that need to be advocated for. And I can tell you that Christina 5 years ago would have, what would people think? What would, and really tried to make everybody happy. And when we're talking about anti-racism, when we're talking about equity, it's not about that. It's about really speaking up for who needs to be heard. And so I just find that everything I've learned, I still do work with breast cancer kind of quietly, and I do, I help people out. People are constantly reaching out like, hey, I have this friend, can I connect them with you? Yes, absolutely. Like, it is still something that I'm very passionate about. But I also feel like it has ignited a passion in me to speak in other areas of my life. Being a teacher is something that is part of my identity. It's really who I am. And so to be able to take that work and really see it benefit my students, my colleagues, things like that, is very meaningful to me. But yeah, so that's what it means to me.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that it gave you a little fire in you in some way, which I think, and Jasmine, you could probably even agree with this. I think that was some of our goal, right? It's like, not even necessarily you advocating, in the breast cancer world, but it's just advocating for yourself, finding out whatever your passion is and being able to push forward with that, whatever that may be.
Because that's part of thriving.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's part of, breast cancer. Like Jasmine was saying, it's one piece of me. It's an important piece, but like, for me to thrive, I really need to find what lights my passion. So
yeah.
I call that the 2.0, when you became the Christina 2.0.
Yeah.
You reinvented yourself, and now you are existing in all these spaces with the 2.0. I love that. It's good to see you.
Upgrade. Yes.
Well, now we're going to transition into what we call our top 5 proudest moments. We'll talk about some of those, and then we're going to bring you guys off the stage so we can talk to some of the other ladies who are behind the stage too. But some of our best moments that me and Jasmine have talked about recently. First off would be the Baddie Retreat. I know we got some of the OGs here who were here at the first Baddie Retreat, which we posted a video from that today. One of my favorite videos. One thing that I remember, Jasmine, of you saying, I remember you sitting back during the first retreat and just saying, like, we will never have this moment ever again.
Oh,
like,
you gave me chills.
And I always think about that because that's true. It's like, you know, you had to be there, right? And we'll never have that moment again. And that's one that we'll be able to cherish. You know, it's, yeah.
We talk about this reason. So what a time to be alive, man. We will never be able to replicate that energy, that movement. And we don't need to. We just need to appreciate the fact that we had that. Like, that was just a time. The things that we produced in that time, the things that we experienced in that time, to go from, I thought about today, like, when you see us, we had a photo shoot before we had a campaign, baby. And then we went to France. Like, come on, God. Like, you just do what you do.
Right.
It was just like, it really was just a time to be alive and to be a part of the momentum of something amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And were you going to say something, Nadia?
I think we walked into the space kind of heavy, right? There was so much going on. We hadn't seen in each other. But that moment, like walking through those doors of the retreat and like seeing your first face, like that was such a release for everybody. And we all needed that. We just needed time to be, right? Nothing else to do. We just needed a moment to be. And then we were amongst others that understood how much we needed that space, right? And so there was like, we didn't go to sleep for probably days after. I know when I came home, like we were on a high for days after. Like, I need to do something. What are they doing? Like, I can't believe I'm not with them and they're not in another room. But we didn't know that we needed each other as much as we did until we made it into that space. So I think it kind of amplified the need for the rest of us as well. We knew that once we were in that space with each other, that other people had to experience this. They wouldn't experience that moment again, but they had to experience the community like this.
Yeah,
I agree, dear. I think about the unexpected. I'm sorry, Marissa, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think about the unexpected things like the Lauryn Hill song that we all just went into, and I think about because I was like capturing so many moments because I was like, I want to savor this. And I'm on my social media fast, but I was looking at some of the pictures that's in my phone. I was like, was we there like 5 days? Was we there like 6 days? And it really wasn't that, like, was it 3 days?
Yeah, about 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. And I'm like, I felt like we were there at least 4 or 5 days. And Nadia hit it on the nail, like walking in. I just remember I wasn't even showing my body then. I was trying to see if my hair was going to grow back. So I was wearing my head wraps and my wigs and all of that stuff. But I found my best friends in that room. Like, we lived those 3 days that felt like a week, but in a positive way, felt like a week. I did not want to leave that space. But I think the main thing that I remember from that is it reinvigorated us to go out into the world, to do more good work, get into some good trouble, and spread the word, spread the gospel, for the rest of us out there. And I just remember coming off of that, like texting and calling and FaceTiming and like all of that nonstop with everybody, because I found my people. Like, y'all fueled me. Y'all lit the fire.
Yeah.
Like, literally, we had a time,
girl,
at the retreat.
From the airport to the airport. I think like from us, everybody was flicking it up as they was on the planes to arrive. We was already in retreat mode from the moment you got to the airport.
Yeah.
Oh, our bus, our little van.
I said, welcome to the Baddie Retreat. On construction paper.
I backed down. I said, my daddy would be so proud of what I'm putting in this van right now.
I mean, we made it happen. And like you said, Jasmine, like that was with like no grants or anything. This is like, but like I even had somebody who asked me recently, like, Oh, the Naked Truth Project. It was my favorite project. Like, who did you guys have that sponsor? Like, who was the photographer that took those pictures?
Jasmine was up pretty late designing that.
Right.
Thinking of the retreat, I just have to share because like when I decided to do it, I said to my husband, so I'm going to do something a little wild. He was like, what are you going to do? I was like, I am going to fly to Florida to meet like 20 strangers. And I just was like, and this is like totally out of my comfort zone. Like, and I was like, I have literally only seen these people on social media.
Exactly. And through COVID. Like we was out in COVID.
Yeah, and the moment I walked in the door, I was like, my people. And I decided I wanted to go to Universal for like an afternoon because I really, really wanted to see Harry Potter Land. And the whole time I was there, I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to be with my people. And I left early because I was like, I just want to be with them. And yeah, so that was like a life-changing. Both retreats were just life-changing.
Amazing. Yeah. I miss those retreats. Like I remember us like from the first one and getting ready to go into the second one, just like thinking about like, we only got like 60 days. We only got like 30 days till we see each other again, till we connect. Cause it's like a family reunion. That was basically what it was, like a family reunion with your sisters. And even as we were bringing new sisters in and they were coming in, it was like, come on in, we here, we've been waiting on you. It was just awesome. It was awesome time.
Well, before we bring up the other ladies who are in the backstage so we could talk about some of the other things, I know we haven't really heard from Jenny or Shangrong, and I want to give you guys a chance to speak to what it was like for yourself of being a baddie ambassador, currently being a baddie ambassador. Jenny, you participated in the When You See Us campaign and the Naked Truth Project. So what that was like for you. So I would love to hear both of your thoughts, especially as being, Asian American women in this breast cancer space.
Sure. Yeah. Y'all just jibber jabber. I'm just listening. It's good to listen. I would say, kind of going back to the first question, and what For the Rest of Us did for me, and doing projects like When You See Us, and the Naked Truth Project, it really brought to the forefront what representation means to me as an Asian American woman, as a breast cancer survivor, as a flatty. What does that mean to me? And what does it mean to other people? And I've been able to, because of the exposure and what I've learned from For the Rest of Us, I've been able to do many other things. So thank you For the Rest of Us for being an awesome jumping off point, and also being sort of a home base. Everyone's talking about how much fun we had at the retreat and everything. And that I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking about the gala, the sneaker ball, and how that was such an amazing experience as well, and getting to see everybody. And I've got this ball gown that I'm like, when am I getting another one so I can wear my ball gown again?
Shangrong, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. For me, back in 2019, I was feeling really lost when I was diagnosed 2017, and I was trying to figure out who I was and finding my voice. And so when I started my Instagram account and just started looking for other people that look like me and in the community, I remember seeing Jeannie as part of For the Rest of Us, and I'm like, what is this about? And I was looking at my notes I have here. I was like, oh, I joined in 2021. That's only 3 years ago for me. And but it really, really helped me find my voice and to find my own identity. To know that even going through this experience, that I wasn't alone. Finding other women of color, and especially Marissa and Jasmine, just how passionate you were, and not really understanding what advocacy meant at that time. And so when I applied to be an ambassador, I was like, well, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so I was really surprised when I got accepted, and so grateful for it, because, you know, I never knew I could co-host with Jeannie on a podcast, and write a blog. Didn't think I could do that. And then for this weekend, as we celebrate the 5-year anniversary for the Breast of Us, to do a meet in person gathering on Saturday. So, because during this whole time of doing everything virtual, except for the gala. The gala, I was so glad I was able to go to that, because I wasn't able to do the retreats or be part of the other campaigns that were mentioned. So meeting everyone in person it felt surreal, because I just, talked to everyone on screen or on Instagram. So meeting everyone in person made it feel so real. And I just felt really lucky and grateful. And I look forward to this weekend to meet other women in the community and to celebrate the 5 years that you guys have been in existence. And I'm just so grateful that I get to be part of it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We're grateful to have you here as well, too. So much so. Well, ladies, thank you so much, especially Bhumika and Christina, for answering my text message when I said, will you please come on? Coming out of the shadows and everything.
Anything for you.
I have to agree. Anything at all for you guys, really.
But thank you so much, especially to the OGs, Miranda, Nadia, Kaneen, and Jenny, for coming on tonight as well. I appreciate you guys.
Always.
And you are what makes For the Breast of Us. So thank you so much, you guys.
See you guys.
Bye. All righty. Okay. We got a little bit more stuff to cover here. I'm going to go on ahead. I know it's... You hanging in there, Jasmine?
I am. Are we going to go over a little? I was like, we can run through and you can get to your last segment if you need to.
Yeah, but we're definitely going to talk, because this is important. So now to the stage, I'm going to go on ahead and bring on Miss Thelma Brown.
Hello.
Mary Fox from Summer Consulting and the Insiders, and then Stephanie Walker. And one of our top 5 proudest moments that we had was the research that we did with Summer Consulting and the Black Women Speak that we participated in. Jasmine, I'm going to let you take lead on this, because you took lead in getting the research going with Summer Consulting. So I'll have you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of dive into the conversation there.
Yeah. So when we mentioned this a little earlier, the impetus, the light bulb moment for us was the lack of representation of women of color in clinical trials. If you know me, you know that I want solutions. I don't like to focus too much on problems. And so when Summer Consulting approached us and said, what can we do to make an impact? We were like, what can we do in the clinical trial space? But we took a different approach to this research, because I think we know there's already been a lot of research about problems, but we wanted to come to this with solutions. And we also wanted to come to this with this understanding that we recognize the value of having an inclusive collective space, but also the importance of targeted and individual experiences. So Summer Consulting did an amazing job at helping us look at not only the barriers that we're facing different segments in women of color affected by breast cancer, but also what were the different opportunities that existed for us to help them overcome those barriers. And that, to me, was like the most important part. What can we do to change the game? I think my only regret is that I feel like we still need to shout that research on the rooftop. We did this amazing job, Mary.
It was some research. When you work in research, a lot of it you just forget right away. You're like, okay, that was good, but now we got to move on right on to the next one, right? It's always going. This study, anyone in our company who touched it, I promise you, if you said, can tell me about that research, anyone who touched it, from the interviewers to the analysts to the recruiters, everyone could tell you, this is what we did, this is what we found. It was that impactful. So for research to resonate 4 years later, been 4 years. For us to all still remember it, I mean, that's saying something. That's saying it was good. It was good research.
I mean, and I still refer to people to this day because they're still doing research on the same things. Like, I'm still seeing things about mistrust. Like, I was in the agile training this weekend, and they mentioned mistrust, and I said, okay, we've already proven that, like, yes, that is an absolute justified reason, but there are ways to overcome that. So can we spend some more time talking about how we're going to implement policies and practices to help overcome that? And then we do this research on our own. And Stephanie comes in with this brilliant idea to bring women together, which was just an incredible experience. Can you speak to Black Women Speak, Stephanie?
Oh my gosh, it was something that I kind of thought about. Actually, Ricky and I had mentioned it, and she had her hands in a lot of other things. So I was kind of like left, kind of like thinking, can I do this? Can the Alliance do this? And we as Black women know that you can't get a lot of Black women in the room together to talk about one thing. Everybody wants to have their own spin on it, and I kept telling people, this is going to be ugly, guys. This is going to really be ugly. This is going to be a headache. And it's like, no, everybody's got it together. We know what we want. All we have to do is go in and say, this is the format, right? So I'm thinking, okay, here we go. So I sneakered up and jumped in. And it was amazing to have 5 organizations that are focusing on Black, brown, women of color, and clinical trials. That, it was all the same purpose essentially, but we all went about our own work in a different way. And believe it or not, the thing that bubbled to the top for just about everybody in one way or another was the conversation wasn't being had with them. And it was like, I don't, I was expecting something earth shattering, like, I don't know, I can't even think of something else, but just the conversation. That was it. The number one thing. We as Black men and women, particularly me, living with metastatic breast cancer, nobody was having the conversation with us about clinical trials, not about entering a clinical trial. What is a clinical trial? The purposes of it, none of that, and we all as Black people know the injustices of things in the past. And, and a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of kickback for this. I understand what was in the past. And I'm one of those people, I'm Black, believe it or not. I want to get past that. I want to go forward and see what can we do to fix things now. Not looking back. Looking back is not going to help us. It's not going to give us suggestions, because if it was, we would have had these problems solved a long time ago. So with Black Women Speak, it was phenomenal. It surpassed anything I ever thought it could be. And I know the Alliance was kind of like shaking in their boots with the success of it as well, because we didn't expect it. We butted heads occasionally. We all came together at the end and put something together that in 2022 at SABCS in San Antonio, people were walking around saying, where'd you get that bag? Because we had swag, man. Black women, we like our swag. Everybody likes swag, but we love our swag. So we wanted something that was going to stand out. And I tell you, it couldn't have been any better. Everyone wanted the bag. I started hearing conversations about, did you hear about, or did you attend? And, it was standing room only. I was hoping for 100 people, just 100 people online and in person. And we doubled that, 100 plus in person and 100 online. And man, it was powerful. Everybody that was in that space, I'm not going to say we tackled the problem of the healthcare provider that we wanted to. That's who we were aiming for. How to show them how to have the conversation with us about clinical trials. I don't I know for a fact we did not get the healthcare provider in the room. We can't hardly ever chase them down. You got to give them some free CEUs or pay them or something, to get them in the room to stay long enough. It's like Velcroing their asses to the ceiling or something. You would get them to stay. But the advocates that were present were blown away. People to this last year, somebody asked me, Stephanie, are you going to do Black Women Speak again at San Antonio? No, ma'am. I said no, quick too. It's like, you might find somebody else to take lead on this one, but it ain't going to be Walker, not this one. But with you two ladies, and not excluding you, Thelma, but Marissa and Jasmine, I am older. I am more seasoned. I'm like a fine wine. I get better with age if I don't die first. But I am so proud of what you guys have done. And Jasmine said something earlier, collaboration over competition. And these two ladies have heard me say, I get so tired of people working in silos. They have heard me say it over and over and over and over again. And when Jasmine spoke about, this is what I would tell somebody that wanted to start a nonprofit. I was screaming backstage. You probably didn't hear me hollering, no, don't do it. We don't need it anymore, But she answered it very well, like I would have. Why don't you look around and see if somebody else is doing that work that you're doing and ask them if, can I help?
Man.
And, follow your pride, girl. It doesn't, and Thelma knows this. I will throw y'all under the bus to be out there in front. And I'll work from behind. I had no desire. I had no idea that the Become Project would put me out there in the limelight because I'm not a limelight chick. I want to save lives in the back. Give me the tools back there. I'll do it back there. Mm-hmm. But you guys are remarkable for what you do. And I'm like a mom here, seeing her young daughters blossom. It is like I am... Don't stop. I know you talk about being tired. I'm tired. I'm stepping back. So I know it's in good hands now. You guys got this. But keep going. Keep going. I mean, for those of us that are metastatic, I need women that are allies in the metastatic breast cancer community like you to continue to carry that torch, to push, to move the needle. Because, I not being negative, I don't think I'm going to see the needle move significant enough to save my life forever or my daughter's life, who is, she's 41, I think. Yeah, 41. And, but it's like, I've lived, I'm a unicorn considered, I was diagnosed in 2015, given 36 months to live. In July, it will be 9 years. So, I am so thankful and so blessed. But there's a lot of work still yet to be done in the clinical trial setting. We are not joining clinical trials fast enough in a steady pace. We're not having that. They're not talking to us about it. And I'm a nurse of 40 years. And not until 2 years ago did someone talk to me about clinical trials. So, if they're not having that conversation with me, I know they're not having it with my counterpart that lives in a rural community like me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of all of you. And for the rest of us, keep kicking asses, and the missing pink, I'll just keep doing it too. And I'll be back here cheerleading for you, but a little bit more from my easy chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Thelma and Mary, did you guys have anything that you wanted to add?
I do. This is graduation season, and you know how mamas get all excited when they see their children do well, and that's where I am. And Marissa may remember when I first met you was in San Antonio in 2019. Mm-hmm. I walked in and I walked up to it and I said, all melanin, all moxie. Because you had made an impact already for the rest of us. And I said, where's Jasmine? I was so proud just to see you all in that space. And in 2019, I think I was the only woman of color on a panel in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
What the Breast of Us has done is brought all of these beautiful, smart women together in one place. So we have a wealth of people to say, put
Mm.
this person on the panel, put that person on the panel. That was not the case before the Breast of Us, for the Breast of Us. So I thank you all, and I am one proud mama. And I might shed a tear like we do at graduation. And I'm going to say one thing about Black Women Speak. Again, I've been in this game a while. That was the first time I saw uh, that many Black women with a common goal in a room together, coming with solutions, not just talk. Each organization came with some solutions. And I'm hopeful. And that hope starts with For the Breast of Us and the Missing Pink, because this is something new. This is something that we needed. This is something I wish I had early on. But I'm so glad that the people coming behind me will have it. But I thank you. And if there's anything that I can ever do as the grandma of the group, and I was at one of yours retreats virtually, the pajama.
You were, I think, the first one.
Right.
I told you I met Dr. Nolan recently, and she got all the way to the end of the conference, and she was like, "I know where I know you from," and I was like, "Do you know?" And she was like, she was at the virtual retreat, the first Batty Bash.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of you all. I am. I can't even explain. I just don't have the words. Because you open up a space for so many people. And this space is allowing so many Black and brown women to shine.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to jump in and share just real briefly with the folks who are watching, because I mean, the research, we keep talking about it, and it was good research, but the role of For the Breast of Us and just that unique space you fill, it's super rare in research for it to be designed top to bottom by patients. I mean, that almost never happens, right? Like patients, the voices are there, right? We can't do research without patients. Like the voices are there, right? The perspectives, but for research to be designed like top to bottom, from the interviews to the surveys to who are the advocates being brought into the space to advise on how to write the questions, what are the kind of like the language nuances that each community of color needs for that research to resonate in a way that makes sense. That it doesn't happen. It still doesn't happen the way that it should, even though it is better, it is improving. So for anyone who's watching, I just need you to know that For the Breast of Us, that collaboration, that inviting of, a representative from, each community to make sure every voice, every perspective was heard. At the end of the day, we heard from almost 500 women and what they needed, right? What those solutions are that they need for their communities. And that is unheard of for that to happen and for that research to be out there and in the hands of people who can do something with it. So, Jasmine, Marissa, and all the advocates, the baddies who advised on that research, we remain so grateful for all you brought and all you shared with us, and we continue to learn. And anyone listening, when you're invited to join research, ask that question. Ask, like, hey, how were patients involved in actually research design? Like, were they involved? Were they given a chance? Can you help us understand like where those patient perspectives were, not in just sharing in the research, but designing the research? That's the next big piece that we're always trying to solve at Summer Consulting. And if you're invited to join research in an organization, ask that question, because that'll tell you a lot about that needle, if it's being moved or not, and what you're sharing with your perspectives.
And that is increasingly happening. And it's increasingly including the voices of Black and brown women.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great question. Great perspective too. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. I appreciate you for hanging around. I know we ran a little bit over here, so I appreciate you being here and, hopping on, and especially you, Stephanie. I know I just hit you up last minute and you said yes, astoundingly. So I appreciate that. And I personally look forward to working with all of you again in the future. So thank you for helping us celebrate our 5th anniversary. Jasmine, you hang around backstage because I got a little something for you towards the end. Okay.
Okay, girl.
Thank you
Glad you
so
said
much.
something. I was gonna be
Congratulations,
here.
ladies.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So proud of
Absolutely.
you.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All righty. We got a little bit more and then we are going to wrap it on up. Thank you, everybody who is still watching with us. So right now we're just going to talk about the vision and where For the Rest of Us is moving towards the future here. So I am going to go on ahead and bring onto the stage Cynthia, who likes to go by Dr. Cynthia now. She is the creative director here at For the Rest of Us. She is making all those beautiful graphics and things that you see there. And then going to go on ahead and bring Kaneen back to the stage. She is helping with the For the Rest of Us Foundation, the nonprofit arm that we have. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I think, is Zuri here?
She said she was. She should be there somewhere.
Okay.
If not, I'll tell her to jump back in.
Okay. And then we'll bring Zuri on in just a second to talk about our new initiative, the Baddie Beauty Collective. But while we're waiting for Zuri to hop on, hello, ladies.
Hello. Hey, Sin. Hey, Rumi.
Sin is also a Baddie ambassador as well. She was at our inaugural retreat. I know she shed a couple of tears at the video today.
Okay, so y'all already know I'm the baddie punk.
He is the crybaby.
And I was listening, and Shane Brown had me out here crying.
I remember when I saw you all at the airport. I was sitting there and y'all came down. Yep, I remember.
Yeah.
That's when I first met Cynthia, like in person. Yep.
So the future For the Rest of Us, where we are moving towards, so For the Rest of Us we're still always accepting stories. We're wanting to get the perspectives and the experiences of women of color who have been impacted by breast cancer. One of my biggest things is I'm really trying to get more stories from Hispanic women, Asian American women as well, other ethnicities. And so if anybody is listening and you would like to share your story, please send us an email at hello@breastofus.com because we really want to interview you or have you write a story for us. But going into all that, we'll talk about the For the Rest of Us Foundation. As some of you may know, we launched our first scholarship, the In Purpose, On Purpose Memorial Scholarship. Just this past April, we opened up applications for that. It was only open up for a month, which is a really long time compared to other organizations that only open up scholarships for about a week or two, if that. And we got over 140 applications from women of color who are in need in our community. And one of the biggest things that I have always wanted to do, especially when it comes to our retreats, the one thing that, Jasmine and I always talked about is we wanted to provide a retreat for women to come to that they don't have to pay any money or they have to pay less money. So when it came to our retreats, the women just had to pay for their travel, but we took care of everything else. Mind you, again, we did that without grants. So For the Rest of Us was out here hustling and bustling. But I wanted to make more of an impact in that. Just this past Breast Cancer Awareness Month, one of the ladies in our private group had said, people are out here celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's all this pink and everything that's going on. She was like, even though I am so many years out from my diagnosis, and this was actually Brittany Church who had said this, who's one of our ambassadors. She said, even though I'm out so many years out of my diagnosis, I am still struggling here, whether that be financially, mentally, or whatever the case may be. And so while I get the significance of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, where are the people that are helping me? And that just sent a light bulb off for me because I'm just like, yes, there's so many women in our community who are still struggling to this day, no matter how many years out they are from their diagnosis. And so I wanted to create a fund for them. So then that way we can give back to the women in our community. And so Kaneen used to work for Living Beyond Breast Cancer. She actually ran their fund that they had. And so I tapped into her to be able to help with this. And I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to it, Kaneen.
Sure. Well, first of all, I thought it was awesome that For the Rest of Us was doing a scholarship or a fund or grant. Um, I agree with Brittany that, and Marissa, you and I have talked about this before as well. Like once you get past ringing the bell and about 6 months to a year out, the opportunities for assistance and help are gone. Like they're dwindling. There's probably very little. I know for myself, having to file for bankruptcy, I hated that, and how it put like the scarlet C on me to where it hindered me going forward. So by me working with Living Beyond Breast Cancer and getting deep dived into that, it allowed me to work with Marissa and Cynthia on the grant, and or the scholarship. And I was so excited to hear that we were doing this, the amount of people that have actually applied. I've been going through responses and all of that and narrowing it down. And I'm just really proud. I'm really proud that, it was something that we all had mentioned about before, but it's actually out here. It's actually, making moves and will help people. And people always say, I know when I was working for Living Beyond Breast Cancer, some of the people that work there are like, that's not enough money. That's very little money to do anything. All that money helps. Every bit of money help. I don't care if you give me $50, a $25 gift card, $100 gift card, whatever. All of it helps when you don't know how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to keep the home that you created for yourself, your family, or even just pulling in the parking to go to your appointments. I know I had to pay so much for parking through those months of chemo and radiation and then ongoing. Scholarships are needed. And so I love that when we were talking about this, we weren't putting in some of those barriers that some of the other organizations have that can kick out some of us who are on hormonal therapy, or uh, some people say, I just did the surgery. No, you didn't just do the surgery. You're still a surviving thriver. And so it's for all of us that are further on, that still are struggling, that still need help, whether mentally, financially, or otherwise. And so I just think it's an awesome thing that For the Rest of Us was able to do, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yes. And so the application has closed for the scholarship currently, but we will open that up again in the next couple of months, but we're still fundraising for that. So if anybody wants to, donate, we'll put the link in the comments there. And definitely just know that anything that you are donating to us, that all goes back to the women in our community.
Yes.
And then now we have Dr. Zuri, Miss Zuri, on the screen as well. I want to talk about, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we have launched just recently called the Batty Beauty Collective. That was birthed after Cynthia and I attended PM UConn that you put on, which is specifically for women of color permanent makeup artists, to teach them, different techniques when it comes to permanent makeup, but especially working on Black and brown skin, which was something that I was, definitely, first of all, I love the whole concept of the conference. It was beautiful, just the visualization that you had there, the way how you executed it. And then the fact that you had breast cancer survivors come on the stage to talk about their experiences of being diagnosed with breast cancer, especially at a young age, and some of the barriers that we, encounter, especially when it comes to permanent makeup services. And so we had kind of talked and collabed and was just like, look, we need to like bring this together. And like literally, I mean, it's kind of like how For the Rest of Us was born. Now that I think about it, like I think literally in a week, we were just like, okay, we're launching this. And so now the Batty Beauty Collective was born. Did you want to talk quickly about that?
Sure. So I'm a permanent makeup artist out of Houston, Texas. But I'm a permanent makeup artist with a background in the sciences. So it's always fitting when I find an opportunity to provide expert level education. And so one of the things that I recognize about the permanent makeup industry is that there is definitely a need for improved techniques, but there's even more of a need to provide medically responsible services. And that is something that the industry really needs to hyper focus on. And because of the nature of our services, because the way that our services are designed to simulate, cosmetics and hair, in most cases with the brows and even with the scalps, we get a lot of breast cancer survivors. We get a lot of breast cancer patients who actually want to receive services because they have gone through the process of treatment and they have begun to lose their hair. And what I have found is that many artists are, they don't know how to engage in those conversations with patients. They are not educated enough on the epidemiology of breast cancer itself in order to provide recommendations to their potential clients. And I think when you compound that with the barrier of African American women or people of color not having access to primary care, it results in uneducated artists telling potential clients, oh, we'll just talk to your doctor, without consideration that that may not be possible, that lack of access to care could potentially be a barrier. And even if they had a doctor, that's just probably just one additional conversation that patients, potential clients just do not want to have. And so I'm so happy that through For the Rest of Us, we've been able to intersect again and again. There's this merger of art and science. And Cynthia is familiar with my brand, and everything about my brand is ways that beauty merges with the scientific discipline. And this was very in alignment with my brand, Artistry by Zuri, and what we are aiming to do with PM UConn, which is improve the healed result. And so if you have not seen it, the mission is twofold. For one, it is to connect survivors and thrivers to expert level services, right? So you want to get services, and we want to have a repository of expert level, highly educated artists that you can choose from. And so these are artists that come recommended by the collective. But the second part of that is being able to provide expert level education to the artists who are providing the services. And I know we talked about this, when we were talking about what the collective was going to be. And I remember saying to Cynthia that what's so novel about this idea is that when a lot of times when we institute programs and different initiatives, we don't look at those things as interventions, right? We say, oh, we'll have a webinar, we'll educate, but what it is an intervention, right? We see a need to educate and provide education and advocacy for survivors and people who are not survivors. But doing so by way of beauty, which is something that connects us all, irrespective of our health state. We all want to be beautiful, and there's a piece of that conversation that we can all engage in at every level. So being able to provide this intervention through permanent makeup is just amazing, and it's such an opportunity for me, for PM UConn, and I know for the rest of us. And I look forward to the data that we collect, the research that we're able to do, the ways that we are able to show in an evidence-based way that this works, that this is a way to connect more people to care, connect more lay people to advanced education.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited. And I know a lot of the ladies who have already signed up on both sides, survivors and permanent makeup artists, they're really excited too. So it'll be interesting to see how we intertwine both of them. So I appreciate that, Zuri. I appreciate you hopping on. You look like you got your lab coat on, so you must be at work still.
No, actually, I have on a shirt. I just have on a white shirt today. No, but I am still at work. I'm actually at the salon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought you were. And I just want to shout out my girl as of Sunday, Doctor of Public Health.
Yes. Thank you.
I put the link in the comments there, so people please check out the Baddie Beauty Collective, check out the Breast of Us Foundation, learn how you can get involved and help. And you will be seeing Zuri soon because we have a lot going on behind the scenes. So definitely stay tuned. But thank you, ladies, for joining me this evening. I appreciate it so much. And then, yeah, have a good night. I'm going to bring Jasmine back on the stage, and then we'll wrap it up because I know we've been on for a while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All righty. I know I kept you around. Thank you, Boo, for staying on. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So I just wanted to say to you, thank you so, so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. I hope that you felt all of the love and everything that we have here as well. You know, I said I wasn't going to cry, but we'll save this. I said that the last time that you and I were on like Zoom or whatever, and I started bawling. But I thank you for everything that you've done for the rest of us. I will shout that from the heels as loud and clear. I'm so proud of you and all the work that you have done and all the work that you will continue to do. I said in my post today that this is a full circle moment for me. To be here 5 years in this industry has been so amazing. And I'm thankful. I thank God to have you by my side. And, you know, at the time, we talked about this last week, at the time that, you know, you took a step back, a lot of us may not have realized why, but I know why. And I'm glad that you did. And it's such a full circle moment for me right now because, you know, we're really good friends. We want to collaborate on a lot of different things. And, you know, from the bottom of my heart and everyone at For the Rest of Us, I thank you. And we made it to 5 years. We made it to 5 years. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so very proud of you and all that you've accomplished. You know, we said this when we last time we talked, and I said, you know, I feel like sometimes we forget that, no, God's got a lot of children, right? And just like in a relationship, there's no way God can call you out of a relationship and it be right for one person and be wrong for the other. And I think that was in the email recently that we got to make it. So I said, I trust that you are going to be able to do this, but I have to go. There's an assignment, there's a calling on your life. There's an assignment, there's a calling on my life. And I sincerely believe that what we saw in those first couple of years is like a drop in the bucket for what God is getting ready to do in both of our lives and through both of us and our commitment to doing his will, his way.
Yes, so much. So I got my cry out for the 5 years. So I'm glad I got that out. But thank you to everybody who has tuned in and continue to watch and support of us. Make sure that you go follow More Life Magazine, subscribe, check out some of the articles that they have there, share some of the stories. Definitely continue to share the stories that we have on For the Rest of Us and support. And it's always collaboration over competition. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We made it to 5 years.
Congratulations.
Woo! Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.